Anyone else feel like growing up in the church really screwed them up financially, really screwed up your relationship with money? Me too, absolutely. That's one of the things that I've really been wrestling with recently, is just how absolutely screwed up my relationship with money is. And a lot of that comes back to the church. Certainly some of it does come back to my parents' relationship with money, but both of them were also raised in the church, raised in that ideas that the church has about money. So it really all comes back to the unhealthy view that churches, particularly more strict, more, what's the word I'm looking for? More legalistic churches tend to have around money. And like my mother was raised in Basic Youth by Bill Gothard, which is a really f***ed up, almost cult-like thing. And my dad, his dad was a preacher, a really fundamentalist, weird kind of thing. And so there was like all of this bull that they brought. And then the church that I grew up in was also somewhat legalistic, certainly around money, very conservative. The irony of that is a lot of those people who went to that church were from Microsoft. And so they're all rich, but they're preaching all this, stuff about money. So all that to say, let's kind of get into what I came to believe about money, kind of where I'm at now, how it's f***ed me up, all that stuff. We're going to dive into all that. Leave your comments below letting me know how, the church has f***ed you up with money and kind of how you're healing from that. I would love to hear everybody's stories. I find that so healing to realize that, hey, we're not alone. We're all going through the same shit. That's really helpful. So let's go ahead and dive into my first money belief. The first one, it's probably one of the most common universal ones around the church, is that verse about money is the root of all kinds of evil. A lot of people say money is the root of all evil, but the actual verse says money is the root of all kinds of evil. But regardless, kind of the message is basically the same. More money, you're more likely to do bad things. That's basically the thing. Or if you're if you're a rich person, you're probably a bad person. That's a belief that I really deeply carry. Unfortunately, even still, I haven't been able to totally shake that belief. It's like, okay, if I got too much money, I must be a bad person. I must be, screwing people over or overcharging people or, just doing people really dirty. Somebody else is going without because I've got money, kind of thing. And that's definitely a belief that's really been really damaging to me and my finances, honestly. Another one is that God will provide. I still remember a youth leader that I had talking about, how God always provided just enough money, for her and her husband, who was a pastor, always, just provided just enough, and it was awesome and never had to stress about it. And, that sort of creates that belief that maybe you don't have to spend responsibly. At least it really did for me. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it was kind of like, okay, well, as long as I'm following God and as long as I'm doing His will, if I'm overly generous perhaps, which is something that I definitely do and I'll talk about more, but overly generous and just help out when I know I can't pay my bills if I, loan out or give out this money. I'm like, oh, well, God will take care of it. And that sort of belief is still somehow deeply ingrained in me, even though I don't believe that that's true and I have never actually seen that work out in that way. So that's another unhealthy, maybe a little bit less common one, but that's definitely something that contributes to my weirdness around money. And then there's just the general money guilt that comes in the church of well, you should be tithing more, you should be giving more, you have money, why aren't you giving that to the church, kind of thing. So there's just this general guilt that I feel around having money, money just existing in my bank account. And so I tend to do a lot of self-sabotage, even now, even though I'm not in the church and I'd never give a penny to the church anymore. I still find myself self-sabotaging. And, it's like, oh, great, I've got an awesome amount of money in my bank account. Oh, I'm gonna blow it on something, or I feel like I have to give it all away, or, just these weird things. So that's another thing that I wrestle with. And another kind of weird thing which I don't know that necessarily has so much to do with the church, but I definitely feel with money is that I have to work hard for my money or I don't deserve it. Like, it's not really mine if I didn't like put the blood, the sweat, and the tears into it. And I think that may be more of just an American thing, but that may come somewhat from the church too, of just feeling like I need to earn it. Similar to sometimes that you sort of you have to earn your salvation, even though you don't have to earn your salvation. But if you're not doing good enough, then are you really saved? It's a weird, man, the church is just weird and up. We'll just got to be honest about that. But anyway, so that's that money guilt of just guilt around having it or wanting it or anything like that. There's just this general sense of guilt and shame around money, having it, but also if I didn't spend it the best, I feel shame for that. There's like that, maybe it comes from like the prodigal son of like, he got his inheritance and then he just squandered it all on wild living and drinking and whores and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe there's like this guilt of, I bought a sweet new camera and maybe I should have given that money to children in Africa or something like that. Like, that's just the weirdness of my brain. And then not deserving money, which again, it all kind of ties together, but in this sense, like, I run a business, I run a videography business locally, and I'm always undercharging, almost always undercharging what I think I'm actually worth because I feel like I don't deserve it, or if it's not really, really hard, I shouldn't make the money. Like, something that maybe is really easy to me might be worth a lot of money, like shooting a wedding, like, that's relatively easy. It's not the most complicated thing, but I should be charging more because I do a really good job. I get really nice, clean shots. I put together really nice emotional videos, but I'm still stuck on the price point that I was like 3 or 4 years ago because I feel like, I can't charge more because is it really worth that? Kind of like that kind of stuff. Or commercials, like for corporations and stuff. Like, I could probably be making freaking bank on those because it's just a freaking line item for those people. But I feel like I'm not worth it, like I don't deserve it. And a lot of that does come from that, not necessarily like the church preaching specifically about money, but just the church's preaching on worthiness and that we're all awful people and we don't deserve anything and everything is grace and blah, blah, blah. And that kind of shit. And another thing that I kind of touched on, but I want to dive into a little deeper, is I just have this tendency to give and give and give and give and give even when that's a really, like, I can't. Like, it's almost like this thing in me, like, it goes into panic mode. My brain goes into panic mode when I feel like, someone's like, can you help me? Can you give me this? And I don't have the resources necessarily, but I technically do. It's like, I could put some things on my credit card even though I'm trying to, get this down and kind of shuffle it around and sort of make it work even though I'm not under any obligation. To be clear, I absolutely am a big fan of helping people when you can. If you follow this channel at all, I'm very passionate about Ukraine, and that's something that I do. I have helped a lot with Ukraine, but sometimes more than maybe I should have. And, the bills get a little dicey because I don't have good boundaries with my giving and saying, okay, I can give this much. I can't give everything. I can't necessarily do this or that, but I don't have the good boundaries to know when to stop if there's need. It's like, okay, technically, yes, I have $200 in my bank account, so I can give you $199. That's the mindset, and that's not actually a healthy mindset because then it leaves me stressed, it leaves me in trouble, it leaves bills unpaid, it leaves all kinds of really weird shit happening, and that's not good. So that's something that I'm working to kind of unlearn so that I can learn healthy giving, because now my belief system very much is we got this one life, we got one life, and we can make the most difference we possibly can in this life. But in order to do that, I have to be in a healthy place. I have to be able to pay my bills. I have to be able to be sustained in order for me to sustain others. It's kind of like that. What they always say on airplanes is like, put on your oxygen mask first and then help others. If my financial situation is not in a good place, I can't help anybody. And so I really need to kind of unlearn that just give and give and give and give, which also, ties in with having money is evil and God will provide, and all these things all kind of like tie together in this nasty, weird web of crap. So what am I doing to solve? Because obviously these are like some serious problems, and I'm really just beginning this journey. Over the last year, I got some coaching, some counseling about kind of how to work through some of this, as well as just figuring out some things on my own. And so there's really two major things that at this point I'm working on, and it's really all mental. And the first one is how I talk to myself about money. And, that's things like, it's just maybe sounds a little silly, but like the positive affirmations, like just saying to myself, I deserve to have money. Money is great. Money is helpful. I have the right to live a decent life, or even a good life. I struggle to even say, like, I struggle, like to say, see here, I'm struggling even now, like just staring at the camera, but like, I deserve to live an abundant life. I deserve to live a life where I'm not stressed about money. I deserve to live a life where I've got enough money. I deserve to live a life where my finances are going really, really well. Things like that I'm worthy, I deserve it. And it's okay, like to reprogram those parts of the brain where it's like, you're not worthy, you don't deserve this, you're a piece of shit, that kind of stuff. And another thing that I do, which is going to sound probably really, really weird, but the coach that I worked with had me do it, and it was actually really, really helpful, is I almost like personify money, and almost, the way I was talking to myself really nicely, do the same with money. Like for me, I'm a very visual person, so I pictured like Jessica Rabbit, but like with a green dress and like surrounded by money, and just like in my mind call her like Jessica Money, and say like really positive things like, money, you're so sexy, money, you're so awesome, money, you're amazing, money, you're like, I love spending time with you, money, you're awesome. Just like, can't think of all the examples off the top of my head right now, because it's been a little too long since I've done those exercises, but just like visualizing this awesome, really cool money and saying really positive things to money, versus, kind of going into that, money, why are you never there for me? Money, you're so scarce. Money, you're just like not here for me. Money, you suck. Money, you're so frustrating, and I wish I didn't have to deal with you. Like, not saying any of that crap, getting that out of my mouth, wash my mouth with soap, and saying like, money, I love you. Money, you're fantastic. Money, you're so cool. Money, I'm so excited to have more of you. Money, I'm so excited to get to spend you and have more time with you and get in flow with you and spend you and get you and not be stressed out and have a lot of you in my bank account, stuff like that. And talking in that way to help reprogram the brain and get that mental state out of the religious shit into a much healthier place. Depending how many issues you actually have with money, some of that may be necessary, some of that may not be, to what degree, but because I have such a deep issue with money, those things I really need to integrate as like daily practices to get more comfortable with money, to get more excited about money, because everything for me, money is a stress or bad or wicked. So I'm really, really starting this journey. So this isn't like a, wow, Brian's got all the answers, he's overcome this video. But hopefully maybe you glean something, or at least can like relate. Definitely leave a comment below if you can, and subscribe for more videos talking about religion. I will catch you very soon.